I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today, the Arakwal people of the Bundjalung Nation, and pay my respects to the elders past, present, and emerging.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Human Design Podcast with me, your host, Emma Dunwoody. I'm a qualified master coach and human behaviour specialist, as well as being a qualified human design coach. And I work with clients every single day to answer the big questions. Who am I? Why am I here? And what is my purpose? I also assist them to transition from the person they think they should be to the person they really are on the inside. I teach people how to actually live their design instead of just knowing it. And if this is something that you want to do too, well, stay tuned or reach out for private coaching or Human Design Unpacks, where I show you exactly how to live your design.
Before we get into today's episode, I want to share something really amazing with you. And it's actually one of our new Millions of Millionaires sponsors. So, to introduce this body graph chart software that we've been using that's been mind-blowing. So I want to welcome the amazing Taylor Dyson, who is my incredible operations manager. Welcome along, Taylor.
Hi, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited to have you here. This is actually something that we implemented when?
April.
Yeah.
And this year.
We were just trialing it out because they'd reached out to us in regards to sponsoring the podcast or something like that, wasn't it? And so it kind of wasn't even on our radar, and we tried it out and we had such low expectations. And then what happened?
Well, I remember sending you a message going, Emma, why are we not using this? Because I was mind blown. You know, we get a lot of requests for stuff like that. And, you know, there's new softwares all the time. And I clicked on it, like you said, with very low expectations. And I started looking through what they can do. And I got so excited. You know, the MG in me was like, oh my God, we have to use this. And I saw the potential of it. And it has delivered more than expected. It's really awesome.
Amazing. Now, before we get into the actual numbers, because I know numbers with Taylor is a thing in our business. She loves to share all the numbers. Let's just tell the listeners exactly who it's for and what it is.
Yeah, so it's a great tool for anyone who uses human design in their business. So if you're a human design reader, a human design coach, or just someone who uses human design in your business, if you incorporate it into whatever you do, it's a way for you to embed an actual human design chart tool into your website. So, you know, if you want someone to get their human design chart, you probably send them to an outside platform somewhere, go to this website, put in your details and get your chart, whatever that platform might be. There's a couple big ones. And what's cool about this is that it allows you to put that tool on your own website and it's yours. So when someone comes and, puts their information into your website, they get their chart, and then you can hook it up to your email list, to your newsletter. You can have it linked to your own content. You can customize the reports afterwards that they get, so it's your own descriptions of what, this type is or this profile. So that's kind of what it is.
Oh my God, I love it. And it's so cool because I actually remember when Jenna Zoe, because it must be the same software that Jenna Zoe used and before anyone else. Yeah, right. And I was always like, wow, her chart looks so beautiful and it's on her website. That's so cool. So yeah, when we started using it, I was like, this is beautiful. I'm really excited that we can do it. But let's talk hard numbers. Like we have had some serious success with this, just adding this to our business. So tell everyone a little bit about the growth that we've experienced through using this.
Yeah. So since implementing it into our website in April, there have been over 4,000 people that have downloaded their chart through the website. And that's unique. That's not, someone who does it twice, because a lot of people, they'll go back because they won't download the PDF or something, or they lost it or misplaced it. That's unique. Chart downloads. So it's even more for people doing it twice. And it's been really amazing. It's more than tripled the size of the email list. And, you can set up sequences afterwards for people to, give them more information and keep everything in-house.
Yeah. And because one of the really big things for us is obviously human design made simple. So it gives us the opportunity to give our way of teaching human design directly to the people who want it. And I love that. I love that every single person that wants to get their chart, that downloads it, we can then support them on their journey straight away, which is, of course, what you set up, because you're amazing, to make sure that not only do they get their chart, but they also get this support, free content support that helps them as they're, new to human design and on their journey. So beautiful. So how do people access this? What's it called? And I know that there's a benefit for listeners of the podcast.
Yes. So you can go to the link in the show notes, or you can go to bodygraphchart.com. And they have been kind enough to give the listeners of the Human Design Podcast a 50% off discount for 12 months, which is huge because it's already inexpensive to begin with. And then the 50% discount is going to put it at $25 a month. That's in US dollars. So wherever you are in the world, it'll be, a little bit different, but 50% off for 12 months. And the code is Human Design Podcast. And we'll put that in the show notes too for everyone. And one of the other things I want to say that's really cool about this chart tool is that it's 100% customizable, and it actually gives Chiron and the 4 arrows, which is what a lot of chart tools don't do that. So that's one thing that a lot of people are drawn to when they go to get our chart from our website is, I can get the arrows because of it, or my Chiron gates.
I love that. It's so cool. So check out the show notes, people. Get on it, because really it is such a powerful and, as Taylor says, inexpensive tool. Like, it paid for itself in the first 2 days, I seem to remember, or first day, I seem to remember. So it's so valuable, and it gives you the opportunity to really build your brand and your communication with your clients. So thank you. Go check it out. Hey, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. I'm so excited to share today's guest with you. I think we met probably 10 years ago, because my youngest son was still just a baby when I first met Jess Ruhfus. And she was a baby herself. I think she was like 20 or 19. And I've literally watched this incredible human, kind being grow and evolve and create a huge business with such great success over the years. And I'm really excited to share her journey with you, because she's actually a mental projector. And you'll listen to her story and you'll probably be like, wow, it sounds so generatory. However, she has learnt some serious lessons about working too hard and doing all of these things. She doesn't know her human design, so she's not aware of how she's actually designed to work. So it's fascinating just listening to her lessons over the years, and how she's learnt about burnout and how she takes care of herself and all of these things. So, and I'm pretty confident I tell you on the podcast as well, she's a 5/1 mental projector, cross of refinement, which is cool because we talk about that as well in the interview. Jess Ruhfus is the founder of Collabosaurus. How good is that name? Collabosaurus. So cool. Which is a marketing platform that matchmakes brands for clever collaborations and partnerships. With a background in fashion publicity and marketing education, Jess was frustrated sourcing cool brand partnerships in events, products, and social media. So she launched Collabosaurus in 2015, which has now attracted over 10,000 plus brands, including Porsche, ASOS, Bondi Sands, and Marks and Spencer's. Jess actually won the 2019 B&T 30 Under 30 Award in entrepreneurship, and has spoken for Apple, Vogue, General Assembly, Microsoft, and the College of Event Management. This human is such a pocket rocket. She has achieved so much. Talk about that keynote of success, right? She's definitely done that. And she also talks about her new product, her new business that she's growing as well, that was birthed out of the pandemic. So that's super cool. Enjoy this interview with the amazing Jess Ruhfus and let us know what you think.
Pretty much every single success moment I've found in Collabosaurus and in my career so far has all been because I've created opportunity for myself. It's like never just come out of nowhere. It's like, if you actually follow down the line, it's because you made an effort to go to that event and network with those people. It's because you sent that email. It's because, you actually put yourself out there and create opportunity.
I am so excited to share my guest today. I actually met Jess, I don't know how many years ago. And would you believe, Jess, I actually had Francisca teaching a class to my community last week. So it's like,
oh, you're kidding.
We were working out that when I worked with you guys at Basic Bananas, my youngest son was like maybe 2 and he's 11 now. So
yeah, I was going to say, I think it's about 10 years ago was going to be my guess. Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So Jess Ruhfus, welcome to the Human Design Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me. Congrats on your podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I love just talking to people I love and sharing all the human design stuff. And it's going to be fun sharing human design with you because you're not really across it. So
no, I'm all ears.
I love it. Before we get into your story, because I do want to ask you, I ask all my guests at the beginning to kind of kick off from that moment, that catalytic moment. It might be the dark night of the soul where all of a sudden you make a decision, you go on a journey, and it's got you to who you are and where you are today. So I want you to kind of give us that summary. Before I ask you to do that, I want to share with the audience that Jess is a 5/1 mental projector. And I'm so excited to be sharing this with you all listening because Jess is like successful in multiple businesses, entrepreneur, like smashing it out of the park. And I'm curious to know about your energy, but we'll get to that. So Jess, you want to introduce yourself and then give us a little overview of your journey to becoming who you are today?
Sure. Well, I'm Jess and I'm the founder of Collabosaurus, which is a matchmaking platform for clever collaborations and marketing partnerships. And how that all came about is I was working in marketing and PR and really frustrated trying to find cool brand partners for events is how it started out. And then realized there was just no platform or tool out there that you could use that made that whole process easy. And so, in 2014, I started building a software company with zero software or tech experience and naively built that and launched it. And fast forward, it's been a long time now. We're about 9 years in and we've attracted over 10,000 brands. So, yeah.
Oh my God, I love it. And it's so the thing that really struck me in the first place, like how old were you when you first sort of launched it? So you left the job, you'd already launched the business, then you left the job. Like how old were you? Like 21 or something?
I was like 22. Yeah, 22 years old.
Oh my God. Where do you get the courage to do that? Like, where do you get that self-belief and I think I actually asked you this at coffee once, like, where do you get the self-belief to go, yeah, I really believe in this. I think this could be something.
Well, I think back then, it was youth and naivety a little bit, for sure. And also I was working in a business where, and also, before Basic Bananas as well, I was working in fashion PR, and there were just really fantastic businesses and business owners around me all the time. And that in itself was just crazy inspiring to see and to watch. But it was also very frustrating for me as well when I could see cool partnership opportunities getting missed because business owners didn't know where to start or didn't know how to reach out, or they'd been taken advantage of by a large corporate or something in the past. That just really ticked me off, and I wanted to do something about it. So definitely went in with rose-colored glasses thinking, oh my gosh, I'm going to make millions of dollars from this in like the first year. And like, absolutely not. I was waitressing for years to get it off the ground. And I ran a tutoring business at the same time to support, even just getting it up and running and paying rent and food and all that kind of stuff. So plenty of ups and downs, but I think, no regrets. I really am the type of person who learns by doing. I need to get in there and experience it for myself. I remember so many people telling me, oh, that's not what it's like and it's not how it's going to be. And I'll be like, I'll show you.
Yeah.
That was my attitude towards it. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. And it just proves like why mindset is so incredibly important, like not taking on other people's, bullshit stories or beliefs or experiences. what I'm really curious about, because it's one of the things when we talk about being a projector, and you're actually a mental, what we call a mental projector. So through the frame of human design, it means that you're an incredibly empathetic human. You actually feel a lot of other people's energy all the time. Not only do you feel it, but you amplify it and you reflect it back. So when you say you've been around a bunch of entrepreneurs, like you literally are almost like being them, you're feeling their energy and their excitement. Now, one of the things about projectors is they're on the planet to guide others, okay? They're here to be the wise ones that kind of really, they can see the way people are using energy. And again, I love what you've said because you've actually articulated exactly that. They're here to say, look, this isn't working, or you're using too much of that energy, or you're not using that energy correctly, or that work, you can interchange that word. And I just think it's really beautiful to see that this is a lot of what you were talking about. You're also... there's a part of your chart that's called your incarnation cross, and you're the cross of refinement. Again, you're talking exactly about that. Like, this doesn't work. We need to do better. We need to do better here. And really, this is part of your mission. It's part of your purpose through the frame of human design, is to refine solutions for the needs of others. So again, it really feels like that's where you're at. And I absolutely had such a geek out moment, because there's a part of your chart where, for those people who know what I'm talking about, in Jess's vocation, she has a line 4. And if you're in my HDX community and you heard Jess Babaco teaching the Pearl sequence, the line 4 is the network. So it's literally someone who thrives in an environment that brings people together. And I'm like, well, that is basically Collabosaurus, right?
That's the whole business.
I loved it. I just thought it was really, really cool. And again, it's beautiful to see people that are really in alignment to their design. Now, the question I want to ask you is how it actually began. And the reason why I want to ask you that is because with projectors, we talk about they have a strategy of waiting for an invitation. So they have to be seen and valued. Their expertise, their knowledge, their wisdom has to be recognized. And once it's recognized and then someone asks them for that thing, then all of a sudden, like you, they can just skyrocket into success, because this is a real part of being a projector, being successful. And I get that it wasn't an overnight thing. I get you were waitressing. However, you have, with your determination, created a very successful business. And we'll talk about the other ones as well, because I don't know about them. And how did it all start? Like, was it an idea? And I know you sort of said you saw other people do it. You saw people missing out on opportunities, and things there weren't ways for people to take care of these sort of the collaborations. However, can we just dive into the mechanics? Like, was there a moment? Was there a piece of intuition? Was there a mentor that said, you should totally do that? Like, right at the beginning of this, was there something external of you that kind of invited you in to create Collabosaurus?
Externally, not really. I kind of, it's funny. I think a couple of years into Collabosaurus, that's very true. I think I didn't give up any of all of the other income streams I had going to focus on Collabosaurus until my partner at the time was like, what are you doing? Like, you have to focus in on one thing. And like, really, if you're give yourself 2 months to make that 8-hour waitressing shift, what you earn in that, could you earn that in Collabosaurus after like 2 months? And I was like, yeah, absolutely I could. And then that was kind of the Kickstarter to let go of the safety net security blanket I had around being really afraid to jump in full time and need to earn a certain amount to survive and live.
Oh, I love that.
At the beginning, I made all of the mistakes. I didn't speak to enough people. I asked in my head, because I came from PR, I thought initially this is going to be a tool for publicists, because that's the tool that I needed. So I think I asked 2 publicist friends that I worked with, is this something that you'd use? And they both said, yeah, absolutely. And I think I said this to my dad, and my dad said, he's like, I don't know the PR space, but you've got nothing to lose. Like, give it a shot. But I thought, let's go all in on this. I'd asked 3 people.
Yeah.
One wasn't even related to the industry at all. And like, you know, I took a loan from a family member that ended up blowing up in my face so that I could build this custom software straight off the bat. You know, I had this vision in my head that build it, and sort of it's so good that people will come, and that's definitely not played out. I mean, I wish if I could go back, I did the MVP version and manually connected people to prove out the concept first and save myself a hell of a lot of time and money in the process. But yeah, that's not what I did. I probably didn't seek enough validation at the beginning. And then, but then I really love the behavioral side and the analysis around how people were actually using the platform once it was up. Because funny what you say about that refinement element, that's probably my favorite thing to do. I love looking at small product challenges and figuring out like little solutions to like user experience, or little solutions to shorten the sales cycle, or increase response rates with collabs, like little things like that to kind of tweak and refine and make it better and better and better. That's one of my favorite things to do.
Oh, I love it. I love it. You're also in your profile, you're a line 5, and the line 5 is all about finding practical solutions. They're the problem solver. They're all that. Yes. So it's all there. I love it. And tell me a little bit about that point where it did start to, you've given up the waitressing, you're starting to say, okay, well, I really need to value myself and this business and go all in. What changed? Like what specifically changed maybe in you that you started to see traction in the business and growth in the business?
There's a couple of different sort of pivot points, I suppose, along the journey so far that you can just see the spikes in revenue and the changes in my energy levels and all that kind of thing as well. And I think, I mean, no one thing was like the silver bullet, massive change. I think it's just like looking back in hindsight, all the dots connect, which is always a beautiful thing. But in the moment, you know, it doesn't at all. And everything's sort of like, there's a bit of a snowball and there's a hustle, and there's a lot of work attached to each single thing. But I think like the first real validation, I think, was Topshop signed up to the platform organically in late 2015. And I remember just seeing that come through and thinking, how on earth have Topshop signed up? Like, that's so exciting. And they did a fantastic collab, and we could prove the value. Like, that was just such a great case study. And then I went out and tried to raise capital for 2-3 years after that. And I was, you know, we were growing slowly, but it was inch by inch by inch, and we were so bootstrapped, and I was working all these jobs to try and keep it alive. And raising capital is just so full on. I mean, we got so close to signing a deal like 3 separate times, and every single time something would happen completely different, that it would fall through, and it would just be soul crushing and devastating. And at the end of 2018, I just went over to San Francisco for a 4-month block, which at the time was like my last ditch effort. I was like, if I can't raise capital for Collabosaurus, I can't afford to keep the business going. And so I spent 3 months over there. I worked stupid hours. I was so burnt out. And Walmart signed up to the platform while I was over there, which was massive and like so serendipitous. But we weren't ready for Walmart, you know, and I had no team. I had nothing. And I came home at the end of 2018, out of money, out of hope, out of energy. And I just remember having like just this really emotional night where I was crying, thinking of the logistics of actually closing the business and, you know, what that would look like. But I had this glimmer of an idea for a feature that I wanted to like build. That was one of those little like problem solving things that I was like, that's a really good idea, but I had no money to build it. And also I'd had like lots of little ideas before that hadn't been the clincher. And my partner at the time was just like, build this feature. This is the last thing. Build the feature and see how it goes. You'll regret it and kick yourself if you don't try it. And so I maxed out the last of my personal credit line. Thankfully, I got myself a credit card when I was working for another company. Highly recommend if you're ever going out on your own. Definitely just get a credit card before you quit that job.
Yeah.
So I maxed out that credit line and built this feature. And that feature was such a game changer for the business. That year we doubled ASOS, Olay, Channel 10 signed up that year. And then in 2020, when COVID hit, initially I thought, oh no, this is going to be scary and terrible for the business. But I think so many small businesses were trying to, on a budget, remain relevant and still reach customers and maintain growth. And we quadrupled in 2020, and it was just like a huge, huge growth spike. So off the back of that very close give up moment of one last shot, sort of spiraled into huge growth for me. So I'm just, so glad I gave that a go.
Yeah. I love this story because I think that often we're really unconscious of the journey, my guess would be that, when you were having that dark night of the soul, oh my God, I can't do it anymore. That night where you were crying, actually you just become this whole new version of yourself, and you just didn't realize that you become the version of you that was ready to take on this one last idea, like to be the person that could actually grow that. So I love that story. I think it's really, really powerful. Can you share what it's actually all about? Because one of the things I often tell people about you and the business, and they always go, that name, what's with that name? If they're Australian, they're like, yeah, I love that. But I have a big American audience, and they're like, Collabo what? So do you want to talk a bit about what the actual business does? I know you said it's a matching agency for brands, but talk about I don't know, I've asked you this question before too, because I really want to do something through Collabosaurus. I just haven't got there yet. I've literally been talking to my PR person, we need to do this. Let's put this on the list for this year. But talk about what the actual business does. How do you bring brands together?
So it works very similar to a dating site. I use the dating analogies all the time because it's just like that. It's just for your brand. So we team brands together with other brands. So that's the major difference. I think a lot of people think collaborations, it's an influencer thing. And that's definitely not the case. We team brands together with other complementary brands for really powerful marketing campaigns that 90% of the time don't involve cash exchange whatsoever. The core of Collabosaurus is all about leveraging currencies other than cash that you have available to you to team up and do really cool stuff together with another brand and reach new people, new potential customers as you go. So that could look like a limited edition product collaboration where you release a product in collaboration with another brand, like Tim Tam and Gelato Messina did a limited edition range of biscuit flavors. There's also things like gift with purchase collabs to drive sales, or bundled products or bundled services to drive sales. I've seen web developers and graphic design agencies collab on a service bundle that, they can sell together, and then they're doubling their organic promotional reach, which is really exciting. And then you've got social media collabs, which could be content series in collaboration with another brand, or a competition or giveaway. And every time you're teaming up, you're doubling, tripling your organic reach. And then there's events and experiences as well. So that could be pop-ups, business events, all kinds of different things, basically teaming up to create a really beautiful brand experience that reaches customers as well. So there are a couple of sort of examples on the types of collabs that we tend to see happen and matchmake on the platform, but how the platform works is similar to Tinder, but a little bit more engaged.
I love it.
You'll create a profile for your brand, and then Collabosaurus will matchmake you up against the 10,000 other brands that we have on the platform to find you your perfect match for
I love it.
marketing partnerships and all sorts of different things.
So cool. Together. And Ken, obviously my audience is a lot of people within the wellness industry and that sort of thing. And can people that have this smaller businesses, can they do this as well?
Oh, absolutely. I would say, we have such a range of businesses on Collabosaurus, and it's totally free to start as well. So definitely recommend doing that. You've got nothing to lose, creating a profile and just seeing what comes back. We work with, even with Collabosaurus, I started collaborating with other brands before I even had a website. I knew that I was sitting on value, and every small business is sat on a gold mine of value. It's just identifying that and being able to communicate that so that you can work on a win-win collaboration exchange. So for me, when I was starting out and I didn't have a website, I didn't have a huge social media following, I didn't have any budget, I had my skill set. And so I lent on my skill set a lot. That was the value I could bring. And I remember reaching out to Prue Chapman from Owners Collective, and she had just started too. And so many friends of mine in business now, you know, have grown to such, you know, heights. But back in the day, like we were all around the same level of like size. So Startup Creative, Owners Collective. There's so many brands I teamed up with at the beginning that we could really help each other. But with Prue, her audience was slightly larger than mine, and her social media was a lot larger than mine at the time. And I reached out and I said, I'd really love to do a webinar. What about if I pull together all of it, the whole presentation? I'll do the workshop. I'll run this for your community, and I'll promote it and everything as well. And all you need to do is just tell your community about it. And we did little things like that. And that really helped to grow my very, very early stage company. So I really don't think you're ever sort of too early to start. As long as you have a brand, or if you are a brand, you can absolutely start collaborating with other businesses.
I love that. And I love that one of the things that you said really jumped out at me, because I think a lot of my listeners, and I know for me, I wish I'd heard it in the early days of my business, is that we're sitting on value.
Yes.
You know, and I think we forget, especially in the hustle and when, you know, the early days of business. And you do have to go that extra mile and those sort of things. I think you don't necessarily see the value that you have already created. I know it took me a long time to go, oh, you know, even like, oh, me, like I'm the value. You don't have to create something to be helpful. So I would just like, in business, what is valuable? So for me, let's just use me as an example. Obviously, I'm a behavioral master coach. I'm a human design expert. I have, you know, a big podcast following, a good Instagram following. Like, how do I go about collaborating? Like, what can I offer? What would I suggest?
So that's a really good question. And I think every business is going to be a bit different as to what value they can bring to the table in a really great collab. On page 3 of Collabosaurus, when you go to set up a listing, that's probably the easiest way to explain it, because it prompts you for every potential thing we've thought of that could be valuable in a brand collab. So that covers everything from the marketing channels you have available to you. In your case, that's a podcast, which is so fantastic and highly valuable. Other brands might have an app audience or an email list or an event audience or a social media community that they can tap into, or even just a really strong network of friends in business. You know, that is valuable. Or like your clients, you might have 10 high ticket clients. Those 10 high ticket clients are so what other brands would love to reach. So if you did something really cool, you know, that in itself is valuable. Then you've got things like your time. So your products, your services, your time, your skill set. That's the next thing I would look at. And don't discount things like social media post creation. People kind of go, well, I'm not an influencer, so I don't include that in my offer. But let's be real. If you teamed up with your dream collaborator, are you going to create a social media post about it? Of course you are. So include social media reach, even if it's to 50 people, and include the value of even creating that. You have to do the copywriting. You have to do the Canva design. You've got to, you know, maybe you can take great photos. That's a skill that you can leverage in a collab. There's so many things like that. So I would say,
love it.
Look at the prompts, because we've got a drop down list of prompts of all the things we can think of.
I love that. I really love that. I was thinking about, so my friend, my personal trainer, she also trains one of the Nagnata girls. And I remember her saying that like Hannah takes all the shots up until like recently they've got the professional photographers. And I remember going, oh my God, they're a big brand and they look so professional. Yet Hannah was just like on her phone taking all the photos up until very recently. And again, I think when we're in the hustle, we just forget that we have all of these things already that are valuable. And we just, sometimes our perception is, well, I have to be a photographer or, you know, a copywriter. We don't, we already have these skills.
And they can be used as currency as well. Like, especially when you're starting out and budgets are really tight, these things are all things that can be used as currency other than cash, you know, in a collab, especially.
Yeah. I love the whole other than cash, and that it's, you know, even now it's not a big money exchange. I think that's really powerful. You know what I want to know now? Now I want to
What?
know about, like, you've spoken on all these crazy stages, like Apple, and was Google on the list? Like
Microsoft and Vogue,
Microsoft and
probably
Vogue,
the biggest
like
ones.
amazing stages. And like, was this on the list? Was this on the manifestation list? Are these things that you've always wanted to do, or how did they show up? And what it was like? What was it like to actually be, you know, this young, successful, oh my God, like probably still at this age, like, pinch me, is this really happening? I suppose that would happen to anyone, but you know what I mean? Like, what's that like?
It's funny. I think especially for the first few years of Collabosaurus, nobody took me seriously. So I just remember that feeling and just going, being so frustrated that everyone thought I was this young, blonde, idiot. And I hated that. And I really had to work. I felt like I had to work extra hard to prove credibility and the fact that I should be taken seriously. And I earned that spot at the table,
Yeah.
So I worked like a crazy person at the beginning, but all of those speaking things, they were pinch me moments. The Vogue one was the largest, at Vogue and Jumbled, I think, were two of the largest I've ever done. And I think in both audiences, there are about 1,000 people, and looking out over to 1,000 people and speaking on stage, that was just absolutely surreal. But it's so funny how both of those came about, and even the Microsoft one as well, actually Apple as well. It was so random. They all came about. They felt like little universe signs. So the Apple one, the first time I thought about closing the doors was when things went awry with the family member who had lent me money to begin with, which ended up just costing so much more money than it was worth, and emotional effort, all that kind of stuff. But basically I got this phone call that I thought was a scam from Apple. And I'm going, this isn't Apple. This isn't really Apple. This is like a joke, right? And they were like, we're doing a panel on brand collaborations, and we'd really love for you to come and speak at it at the Apple store. And I just remember thinking, like, what?
Oh
and
my God, what an invitation. Like, just out of the blue, see your value, see the business. So good.
Totally. And I was young then. I would have been like 23, and that was so exciting. I remember my parents coming to that. It felt like a school graduation or something.
So good.
It was so sweet. So that was great. But then the Vogue one came about because I had a cocktail one night, and a girlfriend who I was out to dinner with said, have you heard there's this Vogue Codes event that's like this tech, women in tech event? And I was like, fantastic. I want to get like tickets to that. And I thought, I want to get Collabosaurus involved in that somehow. And I had liquid courage because I'd had a cocktail, and at like 10, 11 p.m. at night, I think I found the lady organizing it on LinkedIn, and I sent her a message, and I just said, hey, Vogue Code sounds amazing. Like, congratulations. Is there any way we can, as a last minute thing, get Collabosaurus involved somehow, whether that's a sponsorship, whatever? I'd just love to chat about how we could work on this.
Yeah.
And she gets back to me at like 7 a.m. and she said, if you can get back to me by 9 a.m., you can have a keynote spot on the stage.
Wow.
And I was like, so that is how that came about. And like, how lucky that I even reached out, and that was just a career defining moment for me.
Oh my God. I love that.
All of these things just sort of,
it's so good. It's so good. And I just want to geek out a little bit on the human design for the projectors listening, because you probably won't understand what I'm banging on about, but it doesn't matter.
No, I love it.
It's so important, because one of the things with, as I said earlier, like, it's all about the invitation. You have to wait to be recognized. And so often what that does is it derails projectors, because they're like, what, do I just sit around on the couch and wait to be asked? And I think what's really interesting with that Vogue example is that it was like your friend gave you this kind of vague invitation, like, have you heard about this Vogue Codes thing, and that was enough for you to sort of get the ball rolling, and you to sort of, she saw that value in you, she saw it in the business, and that was enough for you to just get that momentum, and like you say, the liquid courage after a drink, and it's something really magical happened from that. I just think that's so freaking brilliant. I love it.
Well, one of my favorite quotes is, I remember when I started the business, I had this printed on flyers, because I did this whole physical stationery waste of money at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh, this is just so, inspirational. So don't wait for opportunity, create it. And I'm constantly reminding myself of that, because pretty much every single success moment I've found in Collabosaurus and in my career so far has all been because I've created opportunity for myself. It's like never just come out of nowhere. It's like, if you actually follow down the line, it's because you made an effort to go to that event and network with those people. It's because you sent that email. It's because, you actually put yourself out there and create opportunity. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. And it's that whole putting yourself out there and following the things that you're super curious about or you want to succeed at. And then, then serendipity can happen. But until you actually get your ass out there, it's not going to hit you on the couch.
Yeah. Well, it's like, what's his name? Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic. He's like, I make my own luck. And that's like so true.
I love it. I love it. So what are these new businesses now that you're juggling a bunch of them? Tell me how that's going. What are they?
Yeah. Well, I've got an e-commerce brand that I've been running just under a year now. We've just had a record month. So I'm really excited about that, which is a completely different venture because it's a foray into physical product, which is not something I've done before. But I feel like I've just worked with so many product businesses on their marketing campaigns, for years. And so I think the grass is always greener. If you're in a service-based business, you want to be like, oh my God, how good would it just be to have product?
Oh my God, that's me all the time. That's me all the time. I'm like, I just want to make t-shirts or something.
Yeah. But then when you're on the other side, it's like, oh, everyone is always looking at the grass is always greener. So I was like, well, why don't we do both and figure out yeah, it's been really fun. So I don't know. Are you going to use this video anywhere? Can I show you the product?
Yeah. Please show us the product.
Okay. So it's a bit of a weird one. I'll tell you the story behind it.
I love it. I love a weird one.
So in lockdown, I lived with two boys and we had one bathroom. And we were all stuck inside. And I thought, you know what, something has to be done. And so I started buying all these different toilet fragrances to try and combat the hell I was living in.
Oh, I can only imagine. I've got two sons. Luckily, they have their own bathroom now, but still just walking past that door is bad.
No, well, your life's about to change with this product. But basically, I hated that. Everything on the market was synthetic fragrances. Hated that. Or the packaging was gross. So it was plastic or it was like that aluminium synthetic spray. It didn't really work. The scents just sort of melded together and created one almighty gross smell.
Yeah.
And so I started mixing sort of essential oils type things in my kitchen and ended up cracking an amazing formula that I'm obsessed with. And it's called Number 2, and I love it. Post-flush perfume drop. So I also hated that on the market, all the other products had the word poo in it. Post-poo drops, VI poo, poopery, all the competitors had the word poo. And I was like, well, that's the kind of thing I don't want to have on display in my bathroom. Yeah. I want something that's beautiful that, when people walk in and see like the Aesop hand washes and they go, ooh, like that's the feeling I want people to have when they see Number 2 on people's bathroom on the toilet.
I love it.
So this is it. It's a post-flush perfume drop. It's totally beautiful. Oh, my background's stuffing with that a little bit.
That's all right. It's so cool.
But there's no synthetic fragrances and it's recyclable and refillable and glass. So yeah, it's very bougie.
Oh, I love it. Oh my God, I'm going to have to go and try it out. We'll
send
include
you
all the links. Yeah, please do. As I say, like literally husband, 2 boys. And not that my son would kill me if he knew I was saying this. And one son in particular who's always on the freaking toilet. I'm like, dude, how can you go so many times a day?
This is the thing. It's like everybody goes, but not many people have really made that experience a sort of elevated.
Yeah.
So
I like
other
it.
than who gives a crap, who've just done a brilliant job of like, the packaging of the toilet paper and having a bigger mission and having that be a really, fun thing to receive in the post.
Oh, I love them.
Other brands that have really had some fun with it. So I'm having so much fun with it.
Oh, that's so good. Oh my God. I love it. I love it. That is just the best. Is it all like with the actual, putting it in the water? Is it all natural? Like it's not putting chemicals?
Yes, no, it's essential oil based, and it's got a perfumer's alcohol base, which is made from sugarcane. So it's all safe in the waterway.
Oh my God, I love that so much. That is so cool. I'm gonna try it out.
Yeah,
far out. So no, I do want to ask about with Collabosaurus and being an entrepreneur. Obviously, you've dived into another business. What is the vision? Like, do you have some sort of vision for the future? Do you look forward and like every year do you go, okay, cool, where do I want to be in 12 months or 5 years? Do you actually look at that? Or is this like just in the flow going with whatever turns up? Like, tell me a little bit about your, I don't want to necessarily use the word planning, but how you like, is this conscious creating?
Yeah, I probably used to set a lot more goals in terms of like 5-10 year plans, but I have always found that something better comes along anyway, and other doors open, and I don't want to miss opportunities because I've got like, tunnel vision on one thing. Focus is super, super important, and there's like broader goals around, I suppose success. I was talking to a friend about this the other day where my idea of success has changed, and that will change as you grow and experience things and meet certain people or whatever. And, if you'd asked me 10 years ago what my vision for Collabosaurus would be, it's completely different to what my vision for Collabosaurus is now, as well as just my day-to-day and like just my life and lifestyle and how I feel. So I find I am lately really following the joy, if that makes sense. I'm really paying attention to what I like and don't like working on, and trying very hard to find ways to spend more time doing stuff where I feel really fulfilled creatively and I enjoy it.
I love it.
So yeah, I think the last couple of years I've really been able to explore that more, which is where number 2 came from. That was just a creative side project, and it's been such a great outlet for me to get my head out of software and into something that's tangible, which is really exciting.
I love it. And like, what's your energy like? The reason why I ask is because, again, from a human design point of view, you're going to be a person that really can amplify on everyone else's energy, like feed off everyone else's energy, but you can also potentially be a person that runs out of it. So over the years, have you really learnt to, like, was it exhausting? You mentioned burnout already. And now you've learnt what you've learnt. How do you manage having enough energy to do all the things you want to do?
Well, I'm definitely not perfect. I don't have a consistent stream of energy. I find I'm hormonally driven, I think, throughout the year. So right now I'm very low on energy. But I've gotten better at planning for that and expecting that and allowing myself to rest, because I used to really be hard on myself and get down and feel guilty if I'm not working stupid hours at a stupid productivity rate, because I know that when I am productive, I'm 2, 3, 4 times more productive than the average person, because I just I'm crazy fast at it and I love it. So, I think energy level wise, I mean, there's peaks and troughs always throughout the month, but I would say after COVID, I think I used to get, like, as a true extrovert, get so much energy from other people. And since COVID, I really have to limit it. I'm finding myself getting more and more drained if I pack my social calendar too tightly and too heavily. So it has to be a balance for me. If I spend too much time on my own, I get really like I don't know, not good. And if I spend too much time with other people, it's not good either. So I think, I've had to find a bit more of a balance, where when I was younger, that wasn't the case at all. It was just like go, 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 go. And I remember attending something stupid, like I would do an event every night for 2 weeks straight, business events and all sorts of things, networking. And I just couldn't do that now. I don't have the energy.
No, neither could I.
But I mean, I think I think part of it as well is I'm still recovering from burnout. I think there's this like misconception that burnout, oh, you have like a weekend away or a couple of weeks off and it just cures. And that's not the case at all. It can take years to recover from burnout.
Yeah.
I definitely went through burnout about this time last year when a big deal fell through, and it was just, oh my gosh, it was soul crushing. And I think I'm still recovering from that. But I think also that's why I've really put such emphasis on allowing myself to work on stuff I am fulfilled by and creatively enjoy.
Yeah.
So that's been part of how I've been able to help recover from it, although I wouldn't say I'm fully recovered.
Yeah. And what are the other things that you've been doing to support yourself? Because obviously you're, let's be honest, maybe just a little bit of a workaholic because you love what you
definitely.
do.
Definitely.
So like, what are the other things that you've been doing? Because obviously it sounds like you couldn't really take time off, and maybe you took a little bit of time off, but what are the other things that you've been doing? Obviously balancing that social calendar, are you big on getting enough sleep? Do you eat properly? Like, what are the things that you've really done to support yourself to heal from burnout or continue to heal from burnout?
Yeah, sleep's always been massive for me. If I don't get, 8 hours plus a night, I'm useless in the day. So I always prioritize sleep. And that's one of the things I love about running my own businesses is because, I strategically don't book meetings pre 9:30 a.m. So it's like if I've had a terrible night's sleep, I can get an extra few hours in the morning. So yeah, sleep is massive. And I also just think, like love languages and stuff like that with my partner, his is quality time. So I really, made the effort where we want to hang out together. And he's very grounding for me, and he's a complete opposite personality type. So, he's a gardener and he's out in nature all day, and he comes home and he's physically exhausted and I'm mentally exhausted. So we're very yin and yang.
I love it.
So that's really good and helpful. And we often go for like long walks and hiking and things like that. And I also love cooking. So cooking's probably my stress reliever. I've done that ever since I was like 16. I remember watching Romeo and Juliet on repeat and making meringues like every day after school.
Oh my God, I love it. I used to do that too. I'd come home and make cakes and
yes, I was such a like baker. What's with the sugary? And now I'd never cook anything sweet. It's all savory, but
yeah. I think that was just, I've never been a sweet tooth, to be honest. Like, I also used to eat, like I would come home from school and eat 2 packets of 2-minute noodles, then eat dinner, like the biggest dinner you've ever seen. I'm like, wow, I used to put it away. It was amazing.
Same. And isn't it funny, like when your metabolism changes, it's like, I remember my cousin saying, you wait. And now I know.
Yeah. I hear. So the last thing I really want to ask you is like I ask so many people, like, what's your advice? What is your advice for those of us that are listening, that are maybe early days entrepreneurs, because there are a lot of people that are in corporate transitioning into their own business, that listen to the podcast. What's your advice? What's your advice for these people as they're building their business and finally doing the work that they love to do and being on purpose?
Well, 3 things come to mind. I would say, firstly, that resilience is a necessary part of it, and building resilience is it's a given and you should welcome it. And like, it's a lesson. There's a lesson in all of it. But to be successful in business, unfortunately, you've got to come up against a lot of crap and build resilience, but that's only going to serve you in the future. So resilience is key. I would also say, what we were talking about before, don't wait for opportunity, create it for yourself. There's so much opportunity out there that is just waiting to, for you to reach out and grab it. So I think, there's always plenty more fish in the sea. I'm using the dating analogy again, but rejection's part of it. Resilience building is part of it, but so is putting yourself out there and creating those opportunities. Because for every speaking gig that I've gotten, like the Vogue thing, I've been told no so many times. Like, are you kidding? I haven't like scored heaps of speaking gigs, but so these people don't know that, the audience don't know all of the rejection that happened before the big win. So create opportunity for yourself. And then last but not least would be, And this sounds cliche. And I remember so many people saying this to me when I started and thinking, yeah, and hustling away. But don't forget to enjoy and celebrate the journey, because in the blink of an eye, I cannot tell you how fast the last 9 years have gone. And I absolutely didn't take the time in so many instances to actually take a breath and give myself a pat on the back and go, this is awesome. I didn't take that time. I remember I won a B&T 30 under 30 award. And then the next day it was just packed full of meetings. I didn't even acknowledge it. It was let's move on. But looking back, that was a huge moment. And I should have celebrated that win.
Massive.
So, don't forget to celebrate the journey and enjoy the journey. I think if you're not enjoying your day to day, you're missing out on a huge part of one of the benefits of running your own thing is that you can craft and design your whole life and the way that you work, and that's up to you. You're in control. So make it enjoyable.
Oh my God, I love all of that and totally agree. I think it's really interesting, the resilience piece, especially the world that perhaps my business kind of falls into. There's a lot of talk about, if it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no. If it's not easy, you don't do it, all of this sort of stuff. And yes, we talk a lot about being in flow and in alignment and choosing things that are correct for us and creating boundaries for the things that aren't. However, it doesn't take away from that piece of you also need to just have the courage to keep turning up, just the ability to consistently.
It's not always going to be rosy.
Exactly. It is not all freaking rainbows and
no.
And I love the story. I also love the the celebrating piece. I think that I took a long time to almost, I know this sounds silly, but almost learn to celebrate. We were taught to celebrate when I did my master coach training. And I remember thinking, oh, well, this is a bit silly, isn't it? And it was only later that I was like, oh my God, there's my conditioning, just put it under the carpet. It doesn't matter. Keep going, like you said. And it's so important. And it's something that these days, I make that effort. And I often just will have a big win. We've had some really big names that we've had on the podcast, and we're like, oh my God, that's fantastic and amazing. And boom, I'm into the next thing. So I'm trying to just do exactly that, go high five. And now I've got a team. It's great because I want to celebrate with them, but it's just so important to be patting ourselves on the back because I have this belief that, we're going into a time now where in a perfect world, in inverted commas, we'll be creating what I call millions of millionaires, getting rid of these big corporate giants that are controlling and not supporting the planet or its people, and be more of, people like us that build successful businesses that do really well. But there's just a shit ton more of us. And I feel like that's a really beautiful future that we're moving towards. And to move towards there, we have to be a different breed. We have to be different. We have to be resilient and a different, more compassionate kind of leader, have the ability to break the rules and make our own mistakes and all of those things along the way. So I just feel like you're such a beautiful representation of that. I also love that every single time I talk to you, you're always upbeat and laughing and positive and, happy to tell all the shit bits as well. Don't get me wrong. It's not like you're leaving out the shit bits, but it's just you may as well just be in it and enjoy the journey and make those tweaks along the way because, otherwise what's the point?
Exactly.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Jess, for being here. It's been so brilliant speaking to you.
No, thanks so much for having me.
It's so welcome. And thanks everyone for listening along. And it's such a great example of hearing such a hugely successful projector who isn't sitting on a couch waiting for invitations. She's making her own opportunities, and then they are finding her, which I think is so beautiful. Thanks, Jess. Thanks everyone for listening, and I look forward to having you on the next podcast. Bye for now. Thanks everyone for being here all the way to the end of the podcast. I hope you got lots of value out of it. I certainly had a lot of fun doing it. Could I please ask that you share this podcast with friends if you found it valuable? And also, bonus points,
Could you leave a review for me as well on Apple? It would be greatly appreciated. If at any point you would like to be on the podcast, or you've got questions that you'd like me to discuss on the podcast, by all means get on my socials and DM me. Everything you need is there in the show notes. Have an awesome day. Bye for now.